yes, I get that when you're brand new and you're bootstrapping it, you do it yourself. But it sucks. He's going through that phase right now, and it's kind of fun to watch. But because we've gone through that multiple times.
Yeah. I think we run into this all the time. We're just like, what do you want? What do you want? It's not that simple.
It is. It is that simple.
What do you want?
All right, Ryan Gosling.
So have you seen that movie?
I have seen that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, back in like the early when it first came out, there was news articles about how the kaleidoscope was gonna make children just dumb, and there was you're always gonna be staring at your kaleidoscope all the time. The end of the world.
And how right they were. And how right they were. I'm telling you, to do this manually.
Aaron, we have developers. We can create this. You could be that guy.
Look, I have other things to do.
Aaron.
Apparently, I have
Well,
movies
apparently-
that I'm supposed to be watching.
Instead, you're giving these brilliant billion-dollar ideas out to the
This
world.
is a billion-dollar idea, no question. Hey, welcome to the Think Fresh Move Forward podcast. I'm Aaron. This is James, Cody, and Ryan. And today we're talking about failure and why the end of the world might not be the end of the world. But first, we're going to talk about the news.
Well, according to the news, though, it's always the end of the world. Every
Headline.
day.
You know what's wild? I saw an article about.
So I guess we're not talking about the news.
We are going to talk about the news. We are going to talk about the news. But here's the thing. I wasn't watching an article. I was watching a video that was a study of articles since articles were articles, and we had like a printed newspaper. Mm-hmm. The end of the world has been a thing constantly.
Oh, absolutely.
And everybody is
sells.
always yeah, of course. Yeah, the first newspaper ever was actually a positive thing in America, at least. The first newspaper in America was like they decided we're only going to produce positive things, and they folded immediately.
That was not successful.
I mean, you heard about the kaleidoscope, right?
It was not successful, and so negative, like a negative slant. They reopened with like only negative news, and they were like successful.
You heard about the kaleidoscope, right?
No.
Yeah, back in like the early when it first came out, there was news articles about how the kaleidoscope was gonna make children just dumb, and there was you're always gonna be staring at your kaleidoscope all the time. The end of the world.
And how right they were. And how right they were.
All right, what do you got, James, for us?
So today we have a Wall Street Journal article on chatgpt. There is
Says
some
NFTs are dead.
some new updates.
Well, art NFTs are dead, I would say. People still buy that crap, by the way. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. All right. So the news segment is a Wall Street Journal article. And recently, the owner or the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, addressed Congress specifically about the fears that he has relating to AI. Right.
Fun fact about Sam Altman: he's a doomsday prepper.
Yeah, which tracks.
Doesn't
right?
surprise me.
Yeah, which makes
like
sense.
a hardcore doomsday prepper.
Which makes sense. So. There are some really interesting insights that I saw to come out of this article. I mean, I think, one of the points that one of the congressmen makes, which I think is a legitimate one, is basically for the better part of 10 years, we had no regulation on social media at all. And it's grown to what it is now. And, regulation typically stifles industry to some degree, but at the same time also can, if executed properly, can have better outcomes, right? And an unregulated social media caused all kinds of problems in the last 10 years.
I think
right?
it should be treated as a utility, just like your phone. In my opinion, is from a regulation standpoint.
Wow, that's pretty aggressive.
I mean, phones are still heavily regulated.
But like Verizon and T-Mobile can't cancel you. They're not allowed to, and free speech is still protected from the utility standpoint on that.
Well, they can cancel your plan, right? Like
but you're not
if you don't pay.
I'm talking about from a regulatory standpoint. So.
Yeah. Well, it's
getting to a point anyways where you're paying for social in some component.
Yeah. So there's no doubt that there will have to be regulation on content that's generated by AI addressing specific things, right? Housing, getting loans, right? Jobs, like that kind of stuff has to be regulated to some degree, because even on social media that's regulated, right? Like if you are a realtor and you run ads, you can't run ads to specific zip codes. You have to run ads to a larger area.
A radius.
Yep, and you can't target based on age, gender, demographics, or anything, because that's housing law, right? So, and same would be true with mortgages, right? And right now, there's nothing on AI, right, to hold that, to keep that from happening. But I thought it was really interesting that the point, equating it to a lack of regulation on social media is, I think, a very fair assessment of where we got to with social media, between fake news and the spread of information, misinformation, and people using it as a news source now. That was not envisioned when Zuckerberg was sitting in his dorm room in Boston, right, all those years ago.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't know if we could have. I don't know if we could have predicted it, because like so I think the worst misuses of social media are in other countries. Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot in America. There's basically you can think of social media as kind of like a vampire of your energy and time, but like. In other countries, like it gets used by the government, and it is very heavy-handed with elections.
Oh, you're talking about propaganda, right?
Yes, propaganda.
Sure, but I mean, we have a ton of fake news that spreads through U.S. society, right, on social media, and the fact that so many people use it for news now.
But
right?
at the end of the day, I don't think that should be regulated.
So,
regardless if you think it's fake news or not, it's still a matter of free speech. Who are you to say? This is fake news.
Sure, yeah.
Who's the fact checker?
Yeah, but
the left?
there are parts that are regulated, right? So one is that real estate example I used.
Yeah,
right?
that's purchasing. When it comes to your opinion, though, that's a matter of free speech.
Yeah.
It's your job and your duty, if you want to read something, to do the research to validate whether or not that is true or not, and then you make your own opinion.
And of course, that's what social media outlets want to continue to have happen, right? They do, because here's the thing, right? They don't want to be considered an actual publisher of news, because if they're considered a publisher of news, it now means they have to vet every piece of content on their platform, which is fundamentally impossible for them to execute on, right? It breaks their business model, right? So, I mean, you're right, Aaron, that we did not anticipate that social media would become like a source of news for a majority of the country, right?
I mean, there's less than 1% of businesses survive the .com boom. So how were you going to predict that?
And my point would be, now that we've seen what happened with social media, there might be some actual justification here for why this should be regulated to some degree. Right, because we now have use case examples.
We know from our mistakes. We've learned from our
The
mistakes.
regulatory aspect on the advertising, I agree on that aspect.
But where would you regulate a chatgpt though? Like I see what you're saying with like housing and stuff, but like I guess you're trying to regulate what answers it gives.
Well, that's a lot that needs to be decided, right?
Yeah.
I mean, both Republicans and Democrats, by the way, Ryan, are talking about opening a whole department just on AI, right?
Jesus,
like an entire regulatory department on just AI,
Which
right?
I agree.
The problem
though, that with OpenAI, which should be called more closed, it's no longer open anymore. That has set sail.
Yeah.
When Elon Musk founded OpenAI with Sam, he kind of drifted away because he was focused on his other stuff. There's a whole interview with him talking about this, and then Microsoft came in and had dumped a ton of money into it and has gone away from the original concept of what OpenAI was meant to be. OpenAI was meant to be free, never charged for, open source. Hence the term OpenAI. It is not OpenAI anymore. It's definitely more, it's getting some criticism because it's definitely left-leaning, and it gives you answers. If you focus more on the political aspects, it gives you answers that if you're on one side, you probably won't agree with, versus other AI tools that are out there tend to be more unbiased. Essentially, they're just searching the web. But anyways, it's just what ChatGPT is being. It's being coded by people who are political activists.
Sure,
that's the problem.
Okay, so I can't speak to that because that's not what this article is speaking to, right? But what this article specifically is speaking to is there a place for a regulatory agency on this, right?
And that would be a part of it, though.
And it sounds like that's kind of the direction they're moving, right? And I don't know. I guess you probably have to do something, right? I just don't know what that something is.
I guess, yeah. So there's a lot of you'll find a million videos on the internet about like Elon Musk gives dangerous warning over AI. You know, you hear a lot of like doomsday. You hear a lot of doomsday information when it's concerning AI, and you're like, oh, you know, it could run away with it. Like I guess I'm wondering how that happens. Like what's the scenario where an
Skynet.
AI?
Duh.
It's unknown.
Skynet. No, we
We're
all know.
scared. We're scared of the
I don't know
unknown.
what Skynet is.
Have you not seen
Terminator?
Terminator?
I'll be back.
I have
That
not
was
seen
a
Terminator.
horrible.
How are you a videographer
I
and
need
you
to,
don't
I need
watch
to leave.
movies?
I need to leave. No, you've never seen Terminator.
I've never seen
we
Terminator.
got
You've
him.
never seen Terminator.
By the way, did you watch
Aaron,
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels
Aaron,
like we told you about?
You're into film, and you're a videographer, and you're telling me you've never seen one of the greatest
Dude,
films
he
of all
doesn't
time.
watch movies.
I don't watch almost anything.
Oh, fair enough.
It's
fine,
too
fine. Each
it's
to
too
their own.
freaking-
It's fine. It's the unknown. We don't know what will happen because essentially the artificial intelligence, our definition of, you have machine learning and you have AI, right? They're two completely different things, by the way. And what we've made, if we really unleash the full potential of it, if we don't have regulation in place and we just open it up to the World Wide Web, have you watched Marvel films? Ultron, right? Kind of the same concept.
So you do watch movies.
It's gonna
So-
decide what it's going to learn, and we
so
don't know what that's gonna be.
We're gonna have
The
a-
next Holocaust,
We're gonna
like-
have a robot that takes over.
essentially.
That's where this is going.
Well, here's
I just have
That's
trouble
scary.
seeing that as a real
no,
possibility.
no. Let me give you a very tangible, real example beyond just the AI becoming
Sentient.
conscious and
Yeah,
sentient
right.
and taking over the world. In the court of law, recordings are currently accepted as evidence. AI generates recordings with
audio
your
recording?
voice, right?
I see.
Deep fakes.
Audio recordings
Deep-
are considered evidence in the court of law, which means that now.
Yeah, deep fakes is what's going
Yes.
to cause
Yeah.
problems.
So the point that OpenAI makes in this article is, in their statements, right, in release of this, is, oh, well, you know, when Photoshop became a thing, people quickly caught on to the idea that, oh, that image might not be real because it could be Photoshopped, right? And in a matter of years, people, generally speaking, caught on to that. It was like, oh,
And now
okay,
we have
not every
tools.
picture I look at is a real photo,
Mhm.
right?
And now we have tools that can actually detect whether or not it's been altered.
Yeah, and so their belief system is one that we as a society will understand that, oh, a voice now can be altered. A video can now be altered, right? A video can
Video
be
can be
created
made.
out of thin air, right?
And that's wild.
Phone calls are
It's
fake.
so I saw a I
Yep.
saw an ad because I get all the filmmaker ads. I saw an ad where you can basically pay for an AI actor or actress,
Yep.
and it's and it was convincing. It
Mhm.
was real convincing.
I mean, think about the.
And they were acting out a scene from Terminator. as well.
Was
I
it?
don't know. There was somebody
You
falling.
wouldn't
into
know.
There was somebody falling into a pit of lava, and I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I did.
Yeah.
I know of that scene.
What was it? Google back in 2012 did that Google Voice where they did
That was
the.
2018.
Was it 2018?
Yeah.
I mean, that was jeez.
That's not out yet.
Yeah.
But still, that was what
2018.
2018, 19, 20.
Yeah,
21,
very
5,
realistic,
6 years old.
personal
Beer-
assistant,
yeah.
calling, scheduling.
Before
appointment.
AI, that
Yep.
was machine learning.
I
how to,
am ready
like,
for it.
The reason why
automate phone calls.
this is even a conversation is because ChatGPT was the first one to bring something to the market that was free
Yeah.
and easy to use.
Yeah.
And I think the
that
market's
was
primed for it because we have so much in the workforce that is just repetitive
right.
nonsense
That
that
was-
we just do.
That was ChatGPT 3 that came public. There's still version 1 and 2 that they hadn't released. I think you could still use it if you even knew about that company. But yeah, it's because it became free and accessible, and of course, influencers blew the heck
And
out of it. How to make
marketing.
$10,000
Yeah.
a month using ChatGPT?
Train AIs
Shut up.
to train other AIs.
Which is essentially another form of regulation. You're going to have other tools that know whether or not some information or misinformation or whatever is real or not.
Yeah, yeah.
How are you going to know if you have all these tools out here that are just regurgitating or generating false articles?
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Buy a ranch,
Yep.
toss your phone,
So,
live on.
live on
and
nothing.
also
Yeah.
you have to keep in
That's
mind
one
that
aspect
I
of it.
mean, the source material for ChatGPT and others, right, is the internet, right, is the wealth of what we believe to
4chan.
be.
That's
right?
what it's like. Come on.
So essentially, the
Like-
learning it's done has some degree, must have some margin of inaccuracy, right?
Well,
Because
It
like,
must be
it's,
true because
it's
Or
also
rejection.
reading all the inaccurate fake news. Too,
Someone
right?
said
And it
it on-
doesn't know what's real or not, though,
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
So-
Has no idea.
Yeah, that's what's interesting is like how does it? What is the rejection algorithm?
Yeah.
Right? What's the algorithm that says
the person who
this
writes
is
it.
rejected? Is it a lack of redundancy or
I would
agreement? Because
say-
it like they canonized the Bible. Like they canonized the Bible by how many copies agreed with that and how many copies included this and that. And
Yeah.
so
I would say there'd probably be kind of some localized database of a whitelist. Like these are factual. This is real. This
And
is
then who decides that, right?
right.
And there's all kinds
Well,
of
I
things.
tell
of
you
course,
what,
yeah.
that-
Like
yeah.
how I mean, I
Yeah.
would say there would be those levels of science, maths. You
Yeah.
know, what's 1 + 1? Fish.
So
Yeah.
Stuff like that, right? So you get from there to okay, now we're getting into politics. What's right or wrong morally? How do you ask a machine
And
what
that
is
actually
right
is
or
a
wrong?
fair
There's
point.
that
You're
huge
right.
gray
You're
area.
right. You're right.
But there's got to be a database of, hey, mathematically this is correct, scientifically this is real, statistically like those can all equal something.
Yeah.
When you start acting like objectable, not objectable, yeah,
Subjective
subjective
opinions.
questions,
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. That's where AI kind of you don't know.
Yeah.
That's the unknown stuff, and whether or not it's controlled by anybody anymore, then what? If it's not regulated, does its own
So
thing, then we have no
question is what's regulated, and the question what is the fear? What makes AI dangerous is the person behind who's writing the code. So if you
idea.
have
To a point.
True, but AI takes it. At the end of the day, AI only gets to that point because someone pointed it in that direction.
Yes and
You
no, because that's where AI gets. That's that unknown horizon, right? We have this point where we've given this 4 million data points to learn from, and then it goes, oh, okay, I don't need you anymore, and now you're locked out. That's scary.
because someone
So you're talking about
Right.
it becoming sentient.
Yes,
right?
like that's that unknown feature. It's like, okay, it's we've fed it's scraped all this internet.
you
all
have
this
to give
data.
it from like the movie iRobot, the 3 laws.
Yeah.
And
Thou-
it has the second brain in its chest, you know,
Right.
like totally.
have you seen iRobot?
I have not.
Well, and you know what? That is
Killing me, man.
actually that's actually a fair.
Those 3 laws of
No,
robotics.
that's true. That's true. But the
Actually,
idea,
what are those?
the Age of Ultron example that you use there, Ryan, is actually a very fair,
I think the beginning of that is.
potential outcome. The idea that
There will be
this
peace in our
AI
time.
reads all of human history and understands all of human history, views humanity as a threat, and then realizes the only answer is to extinguish humanity. Right?
And start over.
Which
I
is
see.
the-
From
So
the ashes
I
we
see
shall
the
rise.
yeah. I see that. I see the beginning of that. So the beginning of that movie is like when he's reading everything. The latter part when he creates
well,
himself to
obviously,
be
where
like
he's where he's made robots.
Yeah.
and all
So
that.
here's the first.
Well,
here's
I
the
think
3.
the part that's
the only
most-
realistic
this-
thing is
this-
I should have a robot suit.
So this should apply to AI. This actually makes a lot of sense. The 3 laws of robotics: a robot must not injure a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Rule number 2: a robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And law 3: a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does
But
not
don't forget about
conflict
Vicky,
with the first and second laws.
because Vicky outgrew that.
Well,
That was,
and
she was
part
the
of
whole part of it.
and
She's like,
part of the
I'll agree
problem-
with these 3 laws because
Because
Vicky.
some jerk off coded
It was
it.
subjective.
well, so here's the problem with that fundamental decision making, right? Then you have the trolley problem, right?
All right, Will Smith.
And the trolley problem is where
Oh,
you
this is
now you have a choice to make a turn left or right down a street, right? And there's only 2 directions to go, is left or right. And AI actually is experiencing this problem. I just saw
Do you run
a
over the
video-
grandma or the 5 kids?
Exactly. I saw an interview
Grandma.
on this. And AI for automated autonomous vehicles is experiencing this challenge as we speak, right? How does it decide what is the
shit.
value of a life?
oh man,
Yeah,
what,
grandma.
what is
Grandma,
the
go bye-bye.
possible
Who is it hit?
outcomes?
yeah.
Is it the percentage likelihood that this might happen down a street?
That was
That could be devastating.
that wasn't the-
or the percentage that this might happen and only one person
That was in the
dies,
movie
right?
iRobot. That's
So
literally
it's
the
gotta
first
choose,
scene.
right?
And sorry, spoilers. That movie came out like 2004, Aaron. So
Yeah.
just
I don't
Yeah.
care.
So that's the idea, though, is this is now a complex problem that AI has to figure out.
in the first scene of iRobot, he rescues Will Smith from the drowning water because he had a higher probability of surviving
Yep.
versus the girl who was 12. And
Exactly, and those are the moral ambiguity that we are now expecting a objective program piece of software to answer, right?
Ones and zeros.
But I can give that
So-
same response to a human being, you know. Are you if that
Well, it's
that
zero
situation
but
happens
there's-
all the time?
But there's a
Yeah.
difference, though, right? Because we fundamentally, as human beings, will say that person made the wrong decision, and that person is responsible. But what happens when the AI makes the wrong decision?
Who's responsible?
We don't treat it the same way, right? We would look at that as like, whoa, it wasn't in our control. It wasn't in a human being's control in that moment. It was in a computer's control, and we're fundamentally uncomfortable with that idea.
The
and
company's liable.
And what's happened now with autonomous vehicles is the way they're kind of getting around that right now, right? Is the car turns off. That's the answer. So if it's
I'm out. I'm out.
if the car is faced with a it's gonna go a certain speed and it has a direction to go this way or that way, and this way would impact all these vehicles or things over here, and this way would impact a building and potentially people inside of it. Its only decision in that moment is to
Somebody
stop,
made a Tetris. They made a I want to call it. It wasn't artificial. It was machine learning, and then they taught it Tetris, and it couldn't beat a level. So when it came to that last cube falling down, and it was going to lose, it paused the game.
Oh, it wouldn't finish. It
Just
would
pause the game indefinitely because it
Interesting.
can't lose. So like the score is either going up or not at all. So it just paused the game. Anytime you try to unpause it and try to move down a pixel, just repause the game.
Yeah, I think there was someone used OpenAI, and AI was doing something, and it couldn't.
I like how we're
Get-
talking about failing right now.
We'll get to that. It couldn't get past a certain point without human interaction, so it made a job or gig on some website, and it hired the person to complete the human task it needed to continue moving the project forward. That's what's scary.
That'd be interesting.
I was watching it on Linus Tech Tips.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That's the scary part.
Yeah.
So how much
Yeah.
freedom do you give it?
Wait, there was another movie that just came out.
A Knight's Tale.
Absolutely great movie, man.
So
A
old.
Knight's
Seen
Tale.
it.
That's awesome. Heath Ledger.
I know Heath Ledger.
Let's
It's a great
go.
movie.
Like, yeah.
Also, the
I
guy,
can't
also
think
the
of
actor
it
who
right
plays
now.
iRobot is in that movie.
The premise of it though is that he gets in a car accident and like he's paralyzed, and then out of nowhere, some rich genius puts an implant in his neck, and at the end of the movie, spoilers, you don't even know what the movie is, it doesn't really matter.
I've seen this.
The rich person wasn't even in charge; he was actually just doing everything the computer chip told him to do.
doing the bidding of
Yeah.
the AI.
It's like
yeah.
who
Actually, that's a really
I
good
can't
movie.
remember what it's
Yeah.
called.
I don't remember
but
what it's called either, but it's really
It's
good.
really
Sounds
good.
great. Should watch it.
Totally watch it.
So let's transition back to failing. Right?
Well, how's this do with
I mean,
failing?
it kind of works.
Yeah,
Like this whole
yeah.
topic,
Well,
AI learns by failing.
So failing,
so-
essentially, the idea is that this is going to replace a lot of people's jobs. So a lot of people are going to fail in the marketplace.
Yeah,
I would say
Yeah.
it replaces.
Here's my segue.
Like
Yeah.
your $30,000 to $40,000 job era, all your busy work stuff is gonna have to be
Well,
reinvented.
A lot of your stuff that's outsourced overseas for cheap labor to, like, say the Philippines, a lot of that. So that's even lower than that threshold.
Right. I'm just talking about
Um,
USA only. Really.
Like, but a lot of companies here in the United States outsource stuff overseas that's
Right.
basic that essentially ChatGPT can do now.
I think there is going to be, if there is not someone already started on it, I think there is going to be real estate imagery editing. I think that is going to be that's going to
But
be
that-
shifted to
but
to
see-
AI because that is a very rote thing.
But that's a regulated space.
Exactly.
'Cause there's
so
things
that
you-
is an example of a space where the government would say you cannot leverage AI in this instance.
Like, if there's
because
power
of
lines
discriminatory
in
practices.
the picture, you are legally not allowed to take out a power line.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a lot of things that so to process the bulk of what most real estate photography is, it's usually done in brackets. Okay, you take somewhere between 3 and 7 photos of a scene at different exposure levels. so that you can get the highlights, because dynamic range is a big problem in real estate photography, because you have really bright outside and you have really dark inside, right? Really commonly. And so you take the bright exposure to get your lights, and you get your dark exposure to get your outside. Okay. And then you
Which
get
is why
everything
you can look
in
into a
between.
kitchen and you could see like the window and you can see the backyard
Right.
perfectly, right? And it's not overexposed.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some other ways to do that more intelligently, but a lot of the process of smashing those photos together and getting it's mostly like just a lot of tedium. And so I could very possibly, and with how good cell phones are, and the small sensor of a cell phone actually works to a huge advantage with HDR, because a small sensor has a small readout, because most sensors work by lines of pixels, right? And it reads like this. It goes to the bottom of the sensor, and then it's red. So when you have a small sensor, you have a fast readout. So, and cell phones have tiny sensors, so they can take. I see in the future that they could take 12 photos at 12 exposure variables, which would fix the problem of the low dynamic range sensor. And then they would be able to take the 12 photos, and then it would go through an AI that's just like, here are the values, it's crunched, it's ready.
So you're saying
Done.
that could be something that's now in every camera, for
Yeah.
example, automatically.
Oh yeah, it could totally be there, and I would see, it would see the death of an industry, a small industry, but definitely the death of an industry.
Just depends on who's going to get to that first. Is it Apple or is it Samsung?
It's going to be somebody.
If it's camera, from a software standpoint, I think Apple might do that first.
I just
Well,
see
someone might make an app and then Apple will buy the company and then
that's what I see happening. I see a real estate photographer out there knowing that this process is possible through AI, because I'm telling you, to do this manually.
Aaron, we have developers. We can create this. You could be that guy.
Look, I have other things to do.
Aaron,
Apparently, I have
Well,
movies
apparently-
that I'm supposed to be watching.
Instead, you're giving these brilliant billion-dollar ideas right
But
out to
This
the
is
world.
a $1 billion idea, no question.
Yeah, and you're complaining about the time you waste doing this. You could literally save yourself time.
I have videos to edit, Ryan. I have videos. I don't have time for
You
$1
can
billion
get-
ideas.
You can get AI to do that for you too.
I don't have time for billion-dollar ideas. That should be like we should
That's a
take a
That's a
picture
quote.
and put a quote
That's a
next to
tagline.
it and put it on the wall and frame it.
That's a quote.
I don't have time for billion-dollar
ideas.
All right, so let's talk about failure.
I like how I try to get into failure and you just took it right back out. Now let's go back in.
Let's talk about failure for a second.
Well, I was trying to talk about adapting, because AI in a way is going to cause a lot of people to fail in business because they're losing business because their clients are now utilizing AI to do things themselves and not having to hire them. So obviously failing forward is adapting.
Yeah,
and learning
actually,
how to adapt. That's my
on-
segue into this.
on the
topic.
reel here, we are seeing the death of the sound man on set with two things. There is software called 32-bit float, right? And there is software that is AI generated.
Oh, back to AI.
That is well, this is failure. And there is now AI isolation. So if you suck as a sound man, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right, because you can now take the trashiest audio. I filmed a scene the other day that was outside right next to a highway. When I say right next to, I'm talking about 20 feet, and there was dump trucks passing. There was like just all manner of cars, and I just clicked AI isolation, and it was gone.
Yeah, I use,
Everything
I
was
use,
gone,
Crisp
and
AI
And
for my
the
phones.
the issue with the person's voice, like just coming, lav isn't always the most natural and close sounding, but like just with the click of a button, I was able to fix that. And now with 32-bit float, you have up to like I think it's like it's around 75 decibels of fault, right? So on the positive and the negative.
That's a pretty. Wow.
That's the difference of a
Yeah.
gunshot and the
pretty
sound
loud.
of a human voice.
Yeah, that's loud.
That means that you
This
are
is like
covered.
This is the example you showed me where the guy was flying the drone in front of the guy.
Yes.
And all the drone's propeller noise, which is loud as heck. You can never do shots like that.
Can't even hear it.
You can't even hear it. It's like the guy's talking.
The guy's talking.
drone.
And I was like,
And
who is filming him? It looks like he's flying a drone.
Usually that's dubbed over, which doesn't look well, or there's just a voiceover or something, but he's talking and the drone's flying away. And he sounds like he's been loved, and you don't hear the drone at all.
Wow.
You can get some really cool, insane shots that way, which, by the way, we should do that for the golf tournament video that we want to shoot.
Anyway.
Anyways.
So, sorry, sound guys.
But all this is, it's just a tool. And adapting to using that tool, because at the end of the day, there are still people today who are still using, like, Windows XP. Or use Bing as their main search engine.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with Bing.
OpenAI is built into it now.
Number one search on Bing.
There's still a lot of people
Google Chrome.
who have no desire to be tech savvy, and they're still going to hire people to do a certain job. It's just that person's job. Can they make the job easier using some tool? Is it going to completely wipe out industries in the next 5 years? I don't see that. Maybe in 20 and 30 years, it might wipe out a few people. I just don't. It's just, are those people going to adapt to using that tool to make themselves even better at what they do? Yeah. But it's not going to completely replace a person yet. I think we're still like 50 years
it's a
away.
Utility. It's a tool belt.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this: what is a way that you guys have failed that taught you the most?
Oh boy.
I mean,
what has been one of the most painful?
I immediately
failures?
go to client relationships, right? And revisionist history on working with a client and looking back and doing an autopsy of that client. And let's say you lose a client, or it's just like the relationship's gone to shit and it's not in a good place. Then looking back and saying, what are things that we could have done differently? And that's the only way you learn and move forward, right? The only way you learn is through messing up and then saying, hey, ultimately we made a mistake here, owning it and moving forward on it, right? Because ultimately, if you're not willing to, in a mature way, look back at actions you've taken in the past, then you'll never be able to grow or improve as a person, right, in the future, right? And I think there's present in a lot of different ways, more like definitively in like, oh, you made a video, you edited it this way, you made that mistake, and now when you shoot it next time, you shouldn't shoot it that way because it hurt your ability to do something about it in post, right? That is a much more like checkbox type example, but I go immediately to some of the more subjective things, like building a relationship with a client, because that's kind of what I'm spending most of my time doing.
Honestly,
right?
those are the mistakes that I have been the most painful and the most the ones I've learned from the most. Like, for instance, the whole expectations lesson, right? And I think everybody is always learning this, but like expectations are freaking everything, and like it almost doesn't matter. Like, when you're in an industry, sometimes you think that the things that you're doing have an objective value that everyone just understands, and that is super not true. That is especially in photo and video.
With fear, the fear of failing, false expectations appearing real. That's like the definition of fear. That's literally what it is. Yeah,
but like expectations in the sense of what is someone expecting? Like, what is someone expecting as an end result? What is someone, and this is something that, like, what is someone expecting as like a product, and what are they expecting that to do? Like, people can run wild with their expectations and how they respond to that, and like you can turn over a great product that doesn't work sometimes.
That's why we never guarantee anything.
Yeah.
And
that's about perceptions being a person's reality, right? How we perceive the world is how the world is real to us, right?
Yeah.
So a client's expectations is kind of what you're describing, right? Specifically client relationships and what they expect as the end result of a specific piece of creative content that you put out, right? And sometimes you might have put something out that you're not as excited about, but for them, it like exceeded their expectations, and therefore it is successful in their mind, right?
Yeah.
And the alternative could be true, where you thought something was just baller and amazing, but from the client perspective, it didn't achieve what they wanted it to.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
And
so
you get-
and I think that just comes from experience, right?
Well,
like experience is the teacher.
Well, that's why in our meetings, especially with the new client onboard meeting, like say we're building a website, I try to get out of them example websites that they like, so I can see what's in their head. Because every time a client's like, "Oh, you guys do you, I'll leave it all on you,"
Yeah.
and then at the end of the project, we deliver something, and it could be the greatest website we've ever built. They still don't like it.
Yeah.
Because
It
they
wasn't
did.
what they were expecting.
They still
Yeah.
had an image in their head of what they're looking for.
Yeah.
and
Whether
I
they're
need to pull
voicing
out.
that image
What a
or
website
not,
that looks
it
like
exists.
apple.com.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
exists in their mind.
Yep.
Yeah, whether they're actually verbalizing it well or not.
Everyone
most
does.
clients don't verbalize it well to
So
begin with.
so
right?
realtors realtors have a term for that. They call it they say buyers are liars.
Mm.
Because buyers are like, we're just looking for these things, and that's really not. They're really looking for something else, and they're just like,
They haven't
for
even
whatever
admitted
reason-
to themselves, maybe even. Right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and I think that's what we run into with like, I think we run into this all the time. We're just like, what do you want? What do you want? It's not that simple.
It is. It is that simple.
What do you
What
want?
do you want?
All right, Ryan.
So have
Gosling.
you seen that movie?
I have seen that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just reenacted
Oh,
You're such a
man.
romantic.
it.
Oh,
If I
all
hadn't
these
seen that movie,
fantastic, amazing blockbuster movies out there that you haven't seen, and you've seen The Notebook.
oh yeah, I've seen that one.
That's funny.
Beautiful.
Oh man, yeah, and I think being not so paralyzed, to your point, Ryan, with fear that you're unwilling to take action and mess things up, right? Because it's better to take action, in my mind, always better to take action on something and do it improperly,
F
right?
it and do it. That's
than it would be to not do it at all.
Oh
right?
yeah.
I think that's why I gravitate towards IT and programming a lot, because that's essentially like at its core what you do. You have a backup of something, okay? Break it, fix it. If you have a restore point, you have a save point. You try to implement something.
You're like seeking failure all the time.
Pretty much. Like people are like, what are you doing? Like, I'm breaking shit today.
That's interesting.
Like
Yeah,
like
know,
I'm always something always breaks. I am in the break fix industry. I'm either fixing something that concludes to breaking something else.
Yeah.
It's like the shaving a yak. You ever heard of that? So shaving a yak, so you start shaving one spot, and then you get distracted, start shaving something else, and that starts growing back, and you start shaving something else. Like kind of like what ADHD is. You're just constantly going from one fire to the next. So you're constantly chasing after failure. It's like programming 101. Something breaks. You're going to fix this function, and now you press one button A, button C and D don't work. Okay, let me fix C. Now A and D don't work. Now D works for some stupid reason.
I
So like,
immediately
you're
got a
constantly-
headache as you were
You're
describing
welcome.
that.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
So calculus would give you a migraine.
Yeah.
That's programming.
I never
It's
did
calculus.
calculus.
It's just functions. Yeah.
Never
I
took
did
it.
calculus, 5 levels of it. Oh my god, I don't remember any of it.
So and that's interesting. Actually, I photographed a couple houses several years back of these guys called pen testers, and they had. Why are you putting your hand on your nose?
Oh, it's a thought. Go ahead.
Okay, all right.
What are you doing over there?
What's going on? Are you calling me a
I'm
liar?
holding,
or
I'm
is
holding a
this-
thought.
No,
Are
it's
you
good.
saying this guy's
I'm
lying?
holding a thought.
No, yeah. So these guys were pen testers,
I'm
and
doing
they
it
had
just in case.
and they would have they
That's a
had
thing.
like 8 they had
Sorry.
like 8 screens in their house, and they
yeah.
had these massive
Sorry,
servers.
I'm still stuck on him holding his thought like it's on his. I've
Or
never,
I'll do this, and I'll hold the thought.
okay.
You know, we continue.
Continue.
I should have put my finger on my nose.
You lost your thought.
I lost my thought. No. They had like 8 screens. And so what they did all day was they were hackers. So they just
Pen
hacked.
testers. Yep.
They were hired to hack into
Yep.
like large corporations and
Yep.
like get their
Ethical hackers.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, photography. This is the nose right here. So there was there's a story. I'm not sure if it's real or not, but just something I've read is that there was a professor that had a bunch of photographers, and he said, "I will not grade you on anything else besides your one final photo." There's 2 groups of photographers. One is that you can take up to 10,000 photos, but you can only submit 1 photo, and the other one is you can only take 1 photo and submit that one. guess who did better?
Oh, the 10,000 photo
Right.
people. For
Because
sure.
you've learned over failure. You learn what works, what doesn't,
Yeah,
what sucks, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like it goes to show, like it works. And
The
so it's just-
amount, the absolute pile of corpses that is my catalog of photos. And then there's the 30 great photos that I have.
Yeah.
I think that's,
They're just lifted up by a mountain of
I think
corpses.
it's definitely changed over for going from like physical film to like developing your own film, and now digital. You just have the ability to just shoot thousands
Dynamically
of
change.
photos
Yeah,
and just
I'll even say
change on the fly what needs to work.
backing that concept up. I mean, even in that recent shoot I did for that client, I hadn't been shooting photos in a while, right? So it was like kind of like again, I had probably like eroded in my skill set there. My imagery towards the end of that shoot was significantly better than at the beginning of the shoot, right? And that was over the course of like 2.5, 3 hours, right? That it was like I was changing, right, to the lighting and conditions and to the people and understanding a little bit better what I should be executing on. And
And I
so,
would also say your lighting changes throughout the day too.
well, it does. This
Right?
happened to be inside, right?
Fair.
But so I have pretty consistent experience of lighting there. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I'm improving, right,
Yeah.
over the course of it.
So, well, consistency is key to improving, especially from failure. A better example, I would say, is Ed Sheeran. There's an interview he did where he showed a
his old
recording
video
of
singing.
his first time ever recording himself, and it is Actually, can you bring it up, Aaron? Go to YouTube and type in Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran interview first recording.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. But even like Google Ads,
Bad singing, yeah,
split
that one.
testing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're still always
figuring out.
Oh,
what
Yeah,
works.
this clip right here of how
Oh, it's
terrible he
horrible.
was. Oh my God, ads. The 15-second ad that has
I
no.
thought I put an
yeah,
ad
mute
blocker
that.
up for you.
YouTube is getting rid of that. Essentially, all extensions, YouTube, it's gonna bring up.
Oh, it played it in the background without actually showing. Interesting.
Yeah, I do. My mum eBay's.
Can you turn that up? Just let it play.
That must
It's
be
only
quite
2
a
minutes.
nice little industry for her. What does she get for a CD?
I don't know. I think you know. I mean,
know.
they pretty much all go to charity. She supports the children.
Oh, we all say that.
No.
Very relatively
Is
early.
it for charity? That's a very nice thing to do then.
British
Yeah.
comedy.
Well, some of them I won't sell because they sound.
What's wrong with British comedy?
Well, they're the ones we're interested in.
Sometimes it's dry.
Class. Oh God, they're really bad.
When you say really bad, though, what was wrong with them, and what was different
gonna
in the
play
music you were doing then as opposed to?
I'm going to play you a song.
Okay.
So this is my thing. When people go, oh, you're so
this mic
so
situation?
talented.
Hey.
You were born with natural talent. I'm like,
His mic's
no.
on his lapel.
Have a listen to this. Right. This is the.
Has this been played in public before?
No.
Okay, so this
So this is
an exclusive
No.
Ed Sheeran when he was shit.
Like this wasn't scripted or planned at all.
when people say artists are born with talent, you're not. You have to really learn and really practice. This is me playing guitar and singing. I'm going to put it into my mic like this.
There it is.
It's okay so far.
Ramona.
It starts off. It has gone. Hold me.
Hold my hand.
Oh.
Oh.
And then.
Rough. That's rough. So, what are you gonna pause?
RUFF rough.
So obviously Ed Sheeran was a failure when he first started singing,
So
and that's not him today at all.
So let me ask you this. The thing that, I mean, it's obvious that failure is important, right? But like, how do you get through that initial just like utter disappointment? Because just like
Keep moving.
crap, like it's hard. It's hard to just say keep moving. I know
Well,
that
it
you want. I know
depends.
the idea is to keep
so
moving.
it'd be-
but like picking yourself up is not like.
It depends on what you have. It's like if you're failing and you're trying to meet a deadline, you want that money, so you have to do it. That's one aspect of it, right? But
You
if
have
it's
to
like
execute something.
you have to. There's no exception. You burn the boat.
That's
you
a
get
fire
paid.
on your butt.
Yeah.
When I say ignore it, what I mean is ignore the emotion. And this takes more, I guess, practice. The more times you failed, and you grow a thicker skin, in dealing with this stuff as time gets on. So I don't try to let things bother me as much. Where like certain situations I've seen where it stresses out James, I'm just like calm, cool, and collected. I'm like, yeah, just keep moving forward. Ignore it, because the problem is if you dwell on it so much, it's only going to make that failure even worse for you, and you're not going to do whatever you need to do to fix what went wrong. So don't dwell on it. Recognize the situation. Try to see what you can do to fix it, and then move on. When it's your first time it's ever happened to you, yes, the world's ending. It always sucks. But sit down, calm and cool and collective, recess, then move forward. And the more and more that happens and more you do it, it just becomes like a natural instinct.
Yeah. For me, I have to come to grips. Like I have to, like, at first I'm gonna feel like I feel like I have to go through the 5 stages of grieving. There's like anger, denial. No, this is great. I don't care what you say about this video. It's awesome.
Well, so what you're describing there is almost dealing with criticism, right? Creative criticism.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, that too. Yeah, yeah. But it's coming to grips with like the loss of a great client.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was like, it's your fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was 100% your fault.
Okay, so we're describing different situations there. So in
Yeah.
the case of losing a client, right? I think the first, what I've always found to be most effective is sit down, bounce ideas off. So Ryan and I will sit down and we'll do a little bit of an autopsy on what we think happened there. That's one way to do it, right? A second thing to do is to immediately have a conversation with someone you know you have a great relationship with. So you had a bad interaction with somebody that you have a bad relationship with, right? Something did not go as planned. One of or both of you have disappointed each other, and you're not happy about it, and leaves you with this feeling in your stomach like that sucked, right? The best thing you can do in my mind is have a great conversation with a great relationship that you do have, because that is a way for you to process the fact that, okay, there are certain things that are not in my control right now. I'm not going to fix this relationship with this client who's firing me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I can do is reinvest energy into people who like what you do and are excited to work with you.
Yeah.
And then you get more energy back from that, right? Because now you had this energy drain that's replaced by an asset or an addition of energy, right, from somebody else. So that's what I found to be the case when it's like I lose a client or something negative happens. It's like I immediately got to think about who's somebody positive I can interact with now, right? The other thing is, for me anyways, and this isn't as much for Ryan, but my way of dealing with it is I have to
Drink wine.
think through. Drink wine. No, I have to think through.
Play golf.
Well, sometimes it's like escapism is a good thing,
Yes.
right? But
You're talking about that?
yeah, but I think it's more about I have to think through the conversation and know that when I go into that conversation, I'm as confident as I possibly can be. So I'm role playing it in my mind. That's usually like a shower thought, right? That's like some shit happened the day before, right? And since we're a B2B business, I try not to let that affect me after hours. So if somebody sends me a shit email that I wasn't happy with at 5 o'clock, right? I have to do my best to escape from that in the evening and then reapproach it with fresh eyes in the morning. And for me, it's like, okay, a shower thought. In the shower, I'm thinking about, okay, these are all the things that I'm going to say. This is all the things that they said. So, yeah, I mean.
If you really wanted to, I can set up some notification settings for you so you don't get any emails past
No,
5
no,
PM.
no, I already have that. So I don't get, so I took the exact reason I took Gmail notifications off my phone, right? Because if something comes in on the weekend and I see the
don't see
preview
it.
text, it's done.
It's done.
Like
You're in
already
it.
done.
Now
You're
my
in it.
mind is
Yep.
now in that, and now I'm like immediately thinking about solutions to
When
whatever
did you make
problem.
that switch?
January or
Why?
December.
What made you make that switch?
I was what made me make it was I was going to see family over Christmas, right? And I was like, I don't want that interrupting me. And then
You just never switched it
just
back.
carried it over through. And it was, I mean, my weekends
And
are
has
significantly
it,
better.
I was about to say, has it made your time more focused at work and
Yes.
then more time to enjoy yourself off?
Yes.
I
absolutely.
will
Yeah.
play devil's advocate to that aspect, though, because that is not me. But
No, you're up until 2 a.m. talking to China. Of course it's not you.
see, it all depends on how you interpret information. Every person is built different as far as when it comes to. I'm built different when it comes to taking information and handling it and how they, I would say, prioritize information. Because what if there is a, oh, shit, shit hits the fan type scenario after 5 p.m. and you didn't read an email and that client could have been saved at 6 p.m. I do read those emails and I process the information thought right then and there.
Yeah.
And like, okay, this is something I could deal. I don't let whatever emotion there affect me. I'm like, oh shit, that's going to suck. Make art mark on red. I'll deal with this on Monday.
Yeah.
Because that aspect can rate.
So
And there's times I've texted you after 5 where I know you've ignored it. I'm like, dude, this needs to take priority right now.
Yeah. So in those instances, I cannot think of an example of a client ever once that in the time we've been working together where they emailed us after 5 o'clock and then we immediately responded to them and we immediately fixed the problem.
I can give you an answer. You weren't on that email, but when a client's
well, if it's an email I wasn't even on, then how is that even?
It would have been the same. It would have been this. I'm trying to I'm giving you the scenario.
Yeah.
It's when a client's website we brought in hacked.
12
p.m.
Yeah, fair point. Now you're talking about a very specific urgent issue, right?
But
that is not within my purview. It's within yours.
Right. But if I had that same aspect, I'm just gonna have notifications ignored.
Sure.
That problem would have spread probably server-wide.
But see, what you're talking about though is a division of labor. So actually, here's the thing, right? You're talking about a very specific thing that falls under your purview, which is important for you. I get it, right? You also have in the back of your mind, if a relationship-based question from a client comes in.
That would have been relationship-based because that would have been every client.
Okay. So, a fundamental tech problem, right? But let's think about this. A client emails us and says, I'm not happy for this reason, this reason, this reason, and this reason. Our relationship is not in a good place.
That can wait 12 hours.
You have in your mind, in the back of your mind, Ryan, right, that James will help me craft that email back to that client and or have that conversation. And so for me, again, I rely on you for the technical aspect, right? If the server's down, that's not my purview, right? The client management side.
Yeah. So do you only as the CEO of Freshman Media get that luxury of get to ignore everything after 5 p.m. and everyone else operational has to deal with the bullshit? That's literally what you just said.
Okay.
To a certain point.
To a certain point.
Yeah.
So, but I just saying when that type of situation does happen, I read the email. And then, okay, I can deal with this now, or do I have time, or I could deal with it later.
What you're saying, what you're saying is you don't struggle with partitioning things.
No,
right. And
you ask any person here, I have no problem. Yeah, no, just deal with it later.
Yeah. I can let go of things. But not certain things. Like I'm kind of with the things that James deals with, I deal with the same thing. But if it's a so-and-so needs this edit right now. No, they don't.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's very rare that someone needs this edit right now. Someone, like, the only time that they do is when there is a magazine that needs an edit to go out to print, and they've waited forever. They've waited forever to get that over to me, and so like.
It's all on them.
So
it's just assessing the problem and what
prioritization.
I do that a lot, and I just don't let it stress me out. That's all.
Yeah. If you're that kind of person, so to take away from that, if you're the kind of person who can partition everything away,
sure.
Go nuts
it's about self-awareness because the reality is like if you're not going to actively be able to solve a problem in that moment, right?
Does it need your time?
It doesn't. And the problem is that for me, I'm going to be thinking about that problem, and I'm going to mill over that, and like a rocking chair, I'm going to be deliberating over that.
James.
Right?
Some PTSD over there, buddy.
I'm just going to be deliberating over it for the next however many hours, right? Yep. So I would much rather deliberate over it on a Monday morning than I would on a Sunday
when
afternoon.
You're trying to have leisure time. Absolutely.
Yep. So, but I think we're a little bit removed from failing at this moment. But I think ultimately a lot of successful failing forward is the idea of progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
And the ability to move forward and improve and grow without it being perfect. Right?
Yeah.
Peter Drucker, I know you knew.
Peter Drucker.
Right?
Yeah,
so there was a book, very good, Effective Executive, and I think I let you borrow the book for a while, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe
Actually,
not.
I don't.
But my biggest takeaway, and I remind myself all the time, is like one of the biggest. There's like 7 objectives, and I can't remember all 7 off the top of my head. But one of it is focus on opportunities, not problems, which is exactly what we're talking about. Like you can mull over everything, but as soon as you start focusing, okay, this happened, but what can we do to avoid it from happening again?
Yes.
To improve in the future and so on and so forth. Like I every situation I've ever faced in IT, it's like, okay, well, it broke. How do we prevent it from breaking again? So always focus on those opportunities, because if you're focusing on opportunities, the client's not like, oh, well, it broke. Why did it break for the 7th time? Oh, your computer's probably needs to be replaced. Well, let's replace the computer. Here's 7 recommendations. You buy it, we'll install it. Here you go.
I mean, every business at the end of the day is just all about solving problems. What do we do all day? We solve problems.
That's true.
Well, what's your problem?
Yeah.
You don't have enough sales? Okay, we're going to fix that problem.
Yeah.
You literally fix broken things.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Always. AI
Your
won't
problem
replace me.
or the problem you solve is you need a realtor needs to sell a house. They need a quality photo that helps sell said home. That's the problem the realtor faces. So at the end of the day, we're all solving problems. This is what we're paying people to do.
Different kind of problems. Yeah.
It's all different kind of problems.
Yeah.
So
And in that sense, of the word of a problem and then into a solution, you only reap the rewards of solutions if you continue to take action moving forward.
Yeah.
Because you could have the best solution for this particular problem, but unless you continue to take action, you won't always have better solutions.
But
That's what
also
you want.
take action and learn how to what fixes a lot of things and makes your business grow is when you fix those actions and then figuring out a way to delegate it if someone else is better at it than you are. Or even if
Very
they're
true.
not better at it, where it takes it off because it's not worth your time. Because is your time? I say this all the time. Is your time worth $100 an hour? Is it worth $200 an hour? Is it worth $250 an hour? Because if it is, and you're doing an editing job, which you could pay someone $15 to $20 an hour, you're actually spending more money when you could be doing something income producing. Yes, I get that when you're brand new and you're bootstrapping it, you do it yourself.
Sucks.
But it sucks. He's going through that phase right now, and it's kind of fun to watch. But because we've gone through that
Yes, we
multiple
have.
times
Yeah.
from the multiple different businesses that I have started.
Yeah.
Now it's like I kind of know what to expect next because we've been through it so many times. And I try not the one thing I've learned is not to let emotion affect your business decision because, like James says, when emotions are high,
Logic is low.
Logic is low.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
which is a great thing to always bring when someone's like very emotional. It's like you start making rash decisions, which should not be. So I try not to, make someone feel good, but I'm very blunt with my answers, especially when it comes to creative stuff. When you ask me all the time, maybe that's why you asked me.
You're gonna get the answer.
You know you're
I
gonna get
know.
the answer. Like
As much as it
'cause
hurts my feelings.
as much as it might hurt your feelings, but at the end of the day, I'm not saying because I'm the end all be all when it comes to creative design. A lot of times you take my opinion, which I'm grateful for. You're like, I think this looks good. What do you think, Ryan? I'm like, that looks like shit. And we end up doing the edit, and it's like, oh wow, that actually does look great.
Yeah.
So.
I appreciate objective people, and I think that you should seek them out because people who can be objective and are not just going to like cater to you wanting to have your ego stroked.
Yeah.
I think that's why
That's what can allow you to grow and get better, especially as a photographer, videographer, someone who's going to not just gush about your work.
Like, oh my god. I mean, it's like the same thing should be said about your best friend or best friends or friends in general.
Yeah.
You want your friends to
Absolutely.
be
Call you
brutal
out.
and
Yeah.
call you out,
100%.
not to fill your ego. Because at the end of the day, yes, you may be seen as the asshole because you're a jerk because you're more blunt, but actually the one who's the asshole is the one who's lying to you.
Yeah. It's the old illustration.
Let that sink in.
If you were if you're blindfolded and running off a cliff, the worst thing someone can do for you is to leave you alone.
Huh.
And tell you you're all good.
Yeah.
That's someone who really hates you.
Let that sink in.
Let that sink in.
So stupid. Let's make sure that
gonna
does
blow-
not get into
gonna
our
blow your
verbiage.
Let that sink in.
Just let that sink in.
I have said
What a blur
something
against
so
his brains.
powerful and so intense that everyone should let that sink in.
All right, I think that concludes the end of today's episode.
All right.
Well, thank you for listening to the Think Fresh and Move Forward podcast. I don't know what we're talking about next week. We've been on a hiatus for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Mostly because of you.
We might have a guest, maybe. Do we have a guest?
No, yes, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, who
We'll see.
We'll see.
Next week, Ed Sheeran's going to be on. again.
Oh, that's definitely not going to happen.
Let's listen to that one.
Fake news. Fake news.
No, it's
AI generated.
3 podcasts from now.
Deepfake.
We have a guest.
Okay.
What's
but
supposed to be next week's?
I have no idea.
We'll
On the
figure
Google
it out.
Sheet.
We'll figure it out. If you've made it this long, I appreciate it a lot.
I love you.
That's
Yeah.
first.
Wait, you're gonna zoom in on your face.
And we're done.